everybody, my name is Joey. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a really cool mixed media necklace using my Potomac Beads treasure box for the month of September 2025. It was called Ocean Vault, and it was a combination of blues and turquoises, and I just really was inspired, especially by this focal bead. I just absolutely love the dimension of this bead. It's just amazing. And so I went into my stash because I found these bead caps, and I can link these. I don't know if they're still available, but I do know where I got them, and I can link them, and maybe if you like this, you'll be able to get this, this for the project. But they start their life like this, and they're just stunning. And I've had these, I don't know, a few months, and just been waiting for the right moment to do something with it. So I have embellished the bead cap with these beautiful little flower bead caps. They're called flower caps that were in the box. Here's what the mix looked like. So there were 3 of those oceanic colors to choose from, and then I'm just using a little flat back crystal to cover up the hole, just to kind of embellish the hole in the middle. And I saved the last one to do with you. It's super easy, but I am using 2 types of glue. Using the E6000 glue for the flower part, and so I'm going to come right to this spot on the bead cap. I'm just working with the pattern that's already in the filigree, and I'm just going to get a dollop of my E6000 glue. I guess I'm about ready for a new tube. And I'm just going to like put a good dollop on here. I don't want it to be, I don't want it to be a mess. I really do think I need a new tube though, because it's not flowing perfectly. I just keep some scrap wire on the edge of my table just for occasions like this. And I'm just going to take my flower and put it on here. And so what I did, since this is a 5-point flower, is on every one I set it so that the 5th point is pointing straight up to the top of the bead cap. So they're all set in exactly the same direction. So it makes it look really purposeful, and this kind of thing, neatness counts. And then for the next step, I am using my gel Loctite super glue, and I'm just coming to the very middle. Just get you don't need very much, just the tiniest little bead of glue right in the middle of the flower. And I love both of these glues because you don't have to rush. You have time to situate yourself and to get everything lined up. I just use my pliers as tweezers, and I'm going to drop that flat back crystal right in the middle, get it set. Just get it pushed down. I just want to make sure it's making contact with my glue. And then again, I have my little piece of wire here, so if I see that anything is showing, I'll just clean it up. And I love those crystals that I had, and I can also link some flat back crystals for you. They just changed the look. I mean, it was beautiful. I love this bead cap. I love the filigree. It's quite weighty, and I don't know if you can see, but it's quite thick as well. But that just makes it look really personal, and all the colors in my necklace are appearing on this focal. And so what I'm going to do is create a wire wrapped pendant. Let me just situate everything. Just go around and make sure I did get everything right. Okay, and what I'm going to do is wire wrap this focal bead that was in our box inside this pendant. And the way that it works out, if you place it in there, I don't know if you can see, but in between this filigree is one of the flat facets, and on the direct opposite side the same thing, and on the other 2 sides the bend or the seam of the facet. So it really fits in there quite beautifully. So that's what I'm going to do. I do want to give that last, now I don't remember which one it is. I think it's this one. I'm going to give that a little chance to set up while we start the pendant. So I'm also going to be using these beautiful cobalt blue matte cube beads that were in our box. And for my stringing part, I got out some turquoise beam beads. I had these in my stash. There were storm duos in the box, and you really need a 2-hole bead. The beam beads are 3-hole, but I'm going to only be using the 2 outer holes of the beam bead. The storm duos could work with this, but they weren't as good for me and you'll see when I do it, but with the cube beads fitting there. So you could alter the pattern a little bit for that. Also from my stash, I just pulled in some check glass seed beads in 11/0 and in 8/0, and that's going to kind of give me the length of my necklace. And I haven't fully determined if I'm going to bead the entire length of my necklace chain or just do a bit of it and then add some actual metal chain links to the back. So when I see how it's unfolding, I'll decide on that. And I also have out here a twisted stainless steel jump ring. That's going to go at the top of my pendant. I'll show you why I'm doing that. And this is a little craft store item. Just to finish off my pendant, I just loved mixing all the blues and a few of my large wavy disc spacers just to add interest. That's something I like to do. If you've been on my channel before, you know that when I get a bead box, even one that I've helped curate, I love to go in shopping in my own items that I've purchased and saved and personalize my boxes. So that's what I have done here. And there was one other thing I was going to show you. My Permalac protective coating. This is the semi-gloss. I brush this on all of my metal findings. It protects the plating, and even if it's brass. So this has been brushed onto the bead cap of my tassel. I brushed it on this bead cap all the way around. I have not done my discs yet. These are things that I find it's easier to brush it on after the piece is finished because I have something to hold on to. But I have already done my bead cap, and this is one of the best products you will add to your jewelry work table. It really makes your work last, and so my habit is at the end of every project to brush it on all my metal things. And it can even protect the surface of beads as well. If you have done any kind of acrylic markers on it, when I use gilding from a marker to like do the edge of a seashell or something like that, you can use it for that as well. So this is wonderful. I always link that under my videos, and it's just so convenient. You can sit right at your table with that little brush and really save your work. So to start off with, I have a pretty long piece here of 20 gauge craft wire, and I am going to probably not need all of this, but when I'm creating a pendant like this, I want a little bit to work with. I have a blunt cut on this end, and I'm going to come here, and what I'm going to do is basically create a very long and very dramatic spiral head pin. And I want this to be a fairly big center, so I'm using my round nose pliers to get an open center, because I want to be able to put a jump ring through this spiral when I make it and hang this tassel from the very bottom of my pendant. So I'm going to start it out like that, just with a nice open center, and I'm going to get a hold of this with my bent chain nose pliers, and now I'm going to tighten up my spiral a little bit now that I have that opening. And now I'm just going to push this around my finger, not around my finger, against my finger. I'm really concentrating on my spiral. I love to make my own head pins, but when you have something this dramatic, this big of a stack, it's almost necessary. It's really hard to find a head pin as long as you might need. So I'm going to just keep doing that, pushing this against my finger until I like the look of it, until I think I have enough rounds. I'll also pause here and just kind of assess my scale. So I want this to be a pretty big scale and, you know, look proportionate to this really amazing focal bead and bead cap. I'm going to come inside and snip, only because I didn't like the way it was looking. So I'm going to just get in there and snip that. That is so much better. And I'm going to do one more, like pull this right to the top, right there. And now to make it a head pin, I'm just going to get a hold of my spiral and get my pliers in there right about there and just bend that straight up. It's hitting the camera because I did give myself a lot of extra wire here, but in essence I have kind of a fancy eye pin, I guess you would say. And then what I wanted to do is do a little stack of I'm gonna do, let me play a little bit, a cube bead and then a disc and then a cube bead and then a disc and then a cube bead. Isn't that cool? And then let's see, I'm gonna do my focal bead next. That looks amazing. And then I'm going to get this on here. I don't want to bump my other 3 flowers and crystals have been drying overnight, but the one that I saved in order to show you what I'm doing with it is not fully dry. It's probably just starting to set up. So let me get this centered in here. Isn't that gorgeous? And then I think I want to do one of these discs right on top. Get one of these flower bead caps and just turn it in the opposite direction. Okay, that looks really good. Just gonna do a wavy disc spacer, another flower, and a gold bead cap. And now since I'm going to put a jump ring on this to string it onto my necklace, I'm gonna wrap my loop in the same direction as my spiral. So I'm going to put a 90-degree bend in there. And this does not need to be a big loop. It's not going to be a bail. I'm actually going to attach it to this twisted stainless steel jump ring and it will be ready for my strung part of my necklace. So I'm going to do a really nice, neat wire wrapped loop here. And in fact, that's going to be the front of my pendant where this seam is going straight up. And now I'm just going to get this nice and tight in here so that it doesn't spin anymore. Trim off in the back and tuck that wire. That is lovely, and I'm just going to straighten up my loop a little bit. Okay, my pendant part is ready, and now I'm going to come to this fancy eye pin and add this tassel to the bottom. And I'm going to add this stainless steel jump ring to the top. Okay, so that is ready for stringing. And so now I'm going to be using my beam beads and these 11/0 and 8/0 seed beads and these cube beads to create my necklace length. And to do that, let me show you my spool. I'm going to use a number 10 beading needle and this Beadalon Beige Wildfire. It's 10 pound is the break point. And let me just pull in. I had already threaded my thread and put a stop bead on and put it around this little thread winder. I just found this at a bead show and it's so fun. Okay, I paused before I started stringing so that I could string a little bit and show you what's going to happen in case you want to take a screenshot of it. I have my stop bead on my 10 pound thread, and then I am stringing on 3 gold seed beads that are my 8/0s, and then a cube bead, and then 2 gold seed beads, and then the little kind of bead station with the cube, the beam bead, and a cube, using the outer hole of the beam bead. And then I'm doing 5 8/0 seed beads in between all of those stations. So it looks like that. And then I'm going to repeat this again, cube, beam bead, cube, and I'm going to do that 5 times. So I'm going to have these 5, I'm going to have it just like that. Now this part down here is kind of my, for lack of a better word, my bail leading into my pendant. So that's what that little pattern is. But I just did that 5 times. So let me pull this down, and in fact I'll lay it here like this, so if you want to take a screenshot of that, you can. And then in order to turn and go back down, I've strung on 2 of my 8/0 seed beads and then 6 of the 11/0. Got a little tangle here. Just bring everything down. So then at the end of it, 2 8/0 seed beads, and then 6 11/0, and then 2 8/0, and then a cube bead. And what I did decide to do is to, because of the amount of cube beads that were in the box, and also because of the weight of my pendant, I decided that I'm going to only bead this part of my chain, and I am going to add that to some Purity Beads solid brass E-coated gold plated chain. These links are solid, and so what I'm going to do is put this through, put this whole thing through this last link of chain, and I'm thinking that I'm not even going to do a clasp. Oh, my cube bead does not fit through the link. So let me back this down and put my chain through. Just slip that cube bead off and then feed my thread through my, not my thread, yeah, feed my thread through. So my chain is now going to be attached to directly to my beaded part of my necklace length, and I'm going to finish up with a cube bead, and I am going to come back down. I'm going to get in position to go back down. So I'm going to put my needle back through the beam bead, the third hole, the hole on the far end. I'm not using the center hole on these beam beads at all. They're just going to hang out. And so I can't remember if I told you, but I played with the Storm Duos that were in the box, and I just didn't like the way they were laying next to the cube beads, and I really wanted a turquoise bead to kind of pull in my pendant. So I had turquoise beam beads. The other thing that would work great here is turquoise super duos, but I didn't have any in turquoise. So I wanted this look. That's what I wanted. I wanted to have this negative space, and I wanted to have this little slice of turquoise to just, go right down into my pendant. So what I'm going to do is repeat this exact same thing going down this side using only the last hole on the beam bead. And I am thinking that I'm not even going to put a clasp on this necklace. I like long necklaces, but I'll decide that at the end. So I have a length here that can just go pop over my head. And so I'm going to continue just like that, picking up a cube bead. And I did 5 8/0 seed beads in between, and then a cube. So every little section looks like that, and just bring that down to my work. Get my little tail out of the way. And then I'm going to run my needle through that last hole of my beam bead. And I will say here, if you're an experienced, bead weaver, you could do this method in the square stitch. In other words, instead of threading your whole length on, you would do your first little station and then loop back around, and then do the next one, loop back around, and you could work it that way. That would make this a little stiffer and reinforce as you go. I've opted to do it this way because I'm only going to have 5 of these stations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so what I'm going to do to reinforce is, once I have strung this side, I'm going to go back up through and come back down, attach my pendant, and then work up the next side. So you could do it either way. I chose to do it this way, and one of the reasons I'm going to reinforce like that is because this bead and this bead cap, it's pretty heavy. It's a pretty heavy pendant, so I'm just going to do it that way to reinforce with the full length of the thread. Can't talk and count to 5 apparently. So I'm just going to continue this way and get back down to this to the bottom of this little beaded section. I just think this is so pretty, leading just leading down into my pendant, to have this little beaded section. And as I said when I started the mixed media, I just love going from the chain to the seed beads, into this stunning metal bead cap, little bit of check glass in here, and then this, it's a gemstone pendant. I think it was howlite, but yeah, I just love all the mixed media. I think it's going to be really super elegant boho. And then pick up another cube bead, so that I'm placing a cube bead on the top and bottom of the beam bead every single time. And then here's where I'm making that sort of a bail. I'm going to just now put on 2 of my 8/0 beads, and then I'm going to run my needle through the cube bead that I first strung on, and through those last 3 8/0s. I'll pull my stop bead off here in just a second so you can see. So I'm just leading down into, let me pull my stop bead off here. So now I'm going to feed my pendant on. Let me go ahead and put my tail thread through here too. It just made sure that this stainless steel jump ring was closed really well. And now I'm going to reinforce. So I am just going to run my needle back up through everything. I'm going to go through, literally go through everything again, like going through these 3, up this cube. See, I'm coming out that cube, and I'm going to go up, let's see, I'm going to go up the first side that I did and just come back down. I'm just going to reinforce before I go up the other side. Sometimes it's easier to show you rather than to tell you. And on those 11 O's, I just want to make sure that I pick up every single one. And I'm working my way back down again. Now here's where I'll say that if you had like a super duo here, you could, without your thread showing, you could reinforce that loop 1 or 2 times more if you felt it necessary. But using the beam beads, you would see your thread. You know, if I were to go back across, I'm going to see my thread. But like I said, I really wanted to use these beads. I wanted this color, and I love the negative space that they create. So I'm just going to get down back where I started and tie a knot, and then work up the other side. Do the exact same thing for the other side. Okay, I'm back where I started, so I'm going to go through that cube bead and my last 3 beads. And just pull everything tight. It's so beautiful. I love that it's fluid, but now it's reinforced, and honestly, there's space through these beads that I could reinforce a 3rd time. And my pendant is heavy for sure, so that's why I'm kind of doing this way. And I'm just going to take my tail thread here and just do a couple of square knots before I work up the other side. Okay, now I'm going to repeat this same pattern that kind of leads down into my pendant. So I'm going to pick up 3 8 O's and a cube bead. And I'm going to start up the other side again with the same exact pattern. 2 8 O's, a cube bead, a beam bead, a cube bead, and 5 8 O's. And I'm going to do my pattern 4 more times. Let me lay it out here. I'm going to do my pattern 4 more times so this side matches that side exactly. So go again, a cube bead, a beam bead, a cube bead, 5 8 O's, and I'm going to do that right up to the top. When I get to my last beam bead station, I'm going to reproduce that loop and attach it to the other end of my chain. And I think this will pop right over my head, but I will try it on when I'm all finished with the beaded section and decide if I want to snip my chain at the back and add a clasp or not. I tend to decide on my clasping at the end a lot of times of a piece. Okay, so I'm at the top. This is very fast, and I'm going to repeat the same thing for my loop. 2 8 O's, 6 11 O's, 2 8 O's, 4 5 6, I can't talk, 6 of those, 2 of these, and then I'm going to work my way back down. I'm going to pick up another cube. Oh, I forgot the cube doesn't fit through, that cube bead doesn't fit through my chain link, so I have to add that afterwards. Then I'm going to run my needle through my link on my chain so it's connected. Let it drop down in there, and then pick up my cube bead and go through my last hole of my beam bead and just repeat the same thing down this side. Same thing again. It looks great. So then another cube bead, 5 8/0s, a cube bead, whoops, yes, a cube bead, then go through my end hole on my beam bead and just get to the other end like that. I think I'm going to be using up all these lovely cobalt cube beads that were in the box. Okay, and it's the same thing on this side. I end with a cube bead and 2 8/0s, and then I'm going to run my needle back through the common cube bead. So it just kind of makes a little, like a tiny little veil leading down into my pendant. And same thing again, I'm going to run my needle through my last 3 beads and through my stainless steel jump ring and run it back, reinforce this side, the same that I did on the other side. Just, let's pick this up, just looping that through, looping that around that stainless steel jump ring, and I'm going to go back up through everything, the 3 seed beads, the cube bead, and I'm going to go off to this side and do the same thing, just making sure that I run my needle through every bead and I don't skip a bead. Okay, and I am going to go back through my last 3 beads and get back to my tail thread and tie my final knot here. Just tie it off to the tail thread. I am so happy with that. I feel like it's really nice and secure. So I'm going to grab my thread zap and burn this off, and I probably will put a little tiny bit of GS Hypo cement. I tend to do that when I have something weighty. And as I said, it is much easier to put your Permalac coating on discs and small findings when the piece is already assembled. So I will grab a hold of this. I already have done this, but I'm just going to grab a hold of my pendant and just brush my Permalac coating just to keep this shiny and gold. Before I found this product, I was selling my jewelry in beach boutiques on Anna Maria Island and Venice Beach, and the shop owners wanted either gold-filled findings or solid sterling silver or something anti-tarnish, and I was taking like all my work out into the garage on a piece of newspaper with a can of Krylon, and that does work, but it's hot, it's messy, it's sticky. You're trying not to spray the beads but just spray the findings. And this is so wonderful. I can take a few seconds at my work table in the air conditioning at the end of a project and, you know, just put a light coating on any of the metal findings that I've added. This chain is already e-coated, so it will not tarnish. I am not even sure about the little jump ring, the stainless steel jump ring that I added here, so I'm just going to brush that as well while I'm here, and it literally dries in seconds. It's such a great product, and I always list that. It's available on the Potomac Beads website, and so I am absolutely thrilled with this necklace. I think it's, you know, it's both chunky and bold and delicate at the same time. I just absolutely love it. The treasure box is so inspiring, and I do have a link to the Potomac Beads website and treasure box, and they have another box called the Kit Edition. So if you love bead weaving projects, but you don't want to design them and gather all your supplies, because that's like a whole nother job, that is a wonderful box. If you love to do the handiwork and love to have a beautiful pattern, that is another option for you. And if you use my link, it helps out my channel, but it doesn't change the prices or do anything to you. So it would be really sweet if you do that. And I hope you enjoyed the project, or you got some inspiration or a little tidbit, a little trick, tip, something, an idea for your own. And I'd love to hear from you guys if you did. So I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, everybody.